From boardroom meetings to bedtime stories, Coffee in the Barn explores the delicate dance of balancing the demands of our professional lives with the joys and responsibilities of being moms. Join us each week as we discuss the latest trends in agribusiness, share insightful interviews with industry experts, and sprinkle in some heartfelt anecdotes about the humorous and heartwarming moments that come with being a working mom in agriculture. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee in the Barn with Casey and Morgan. This week, we're going to be talking about our jobs and different features that maybe the audience and the general public don't necessarily know what a swine nutritionist does. That's what we're trained to do, and that's what our college degrees say we are. I know Casey has a little bit more experience on kind of how she set up her own business, and what she's doing today is a lot different than what she was doing 5-10 years ago, and very similar for me. I'm not doing the same thing I was doing right out of college, but what we're kind of doing today. And if you're interested in a career in swine nutrition, just some key features to look out for that you might not have necessarily thought about as we have navigated through our careers.
And I just want to give you FYI, our thesis may have been, our dissertation about swine nutrition, but our diploma still says animal science.
Yes, that's true.
And I'm going to segue that into past and future discussions, right? So remember, we're all scientists. I would rather be called a scientist than a nutritionist today.
We're solving problems all the time, every day.
Exactly. And you know, as moms, problems are
never ending.
Always a problem, right? Do you have this? Is this in your car? And, 400 miles away.
Mom,
but we both got back. We both just got back from a trade show in Iowa, and there's some pictures floating around. And I know you're not watching this, but we both have our coffee in the barn mugs. Thanks to Morgan's creative talents with the Cricut machine that just collects dust on my shelf.
It's nicer when you want to do a last-minute project and you can just whip it up.
But some things... So are you FaceTiming with your kids yet?
Yes, except normally it's... Well, now Emma can, face it towards her, and we can actually have conversation. Jace just sticks his whole face into the camera and wants to, see me, and then sometimes we're in the in-between where she's trying to show me something and I just can't look at the phone because I look like I'm gonna get, or I feel like I'm gonna get sick because of how crazy it's going all over the place. Mom, look at this. Mom, look at this. Mom, look at this.
I don't know if they outgrow that.
Oh, darn.
And I was having a conversation with my friend about this. I said, yeah, the hardest thing about FaceTiming with my son, and he does this with his grandparents, and I have to reel him back in because he'll go around and show him like his Lego building and all that, and they think that's cool. But he sometimes, when it's just face to face, he's more interested in how he looks on camera than looking at his grandma or me, right? And making faces like, oh, what does my tongue look like? And so yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I was on Snapchat or something, and Emma found the face filters and all the different, you stick your tongue out and you do all these different things. And so now when we have a couple minutes or, if we're winding down before bed or something, and she'll want to look at my phone. And so we sit there together and make faces, or if Garrett's at work, we'll send them all the different, Snapchat filter things if we have a couple minutes and we're not doing anything. Or there's the fun ones where they have the animals, like the bunny rabbit that's on your head, or the kitty cat, or the dog. Emma really likes that. So that
I never got into that. So
we do that sometimes. But yeah.
But no, Arthur gets my phone and I'll go through my photos traveling, and I'm like, when did he get my phone? And he takes all those funny pictures and he's filters, and he's or I have it's just random photos of the floor, and I'm gonna go you're filling my photo feed. This is why I paid Apple extra storage.
Emma's gotten really good at taking pictures, way better than I think I was at 3 years old. Granted, we didn't have phones at that age, but my friends got her a little digital camera for her birthday a couple of months ago, and once she figured out how it worked, I think within a 3-week time span, there was over 400 pictures on it. Because she was just wanting to take pictures of everything. Your feet, your face, whatever you were doing, even if you were not looking.
Yeah.
Or we're in the car and she wants to take pictures out the window of everything.
We did get one of those as well, and he still wants to pull it out and do different things. Well, that is a fun story about a mom and kids traveling is FaceTime. So we passed 5 minutes, Morgan.
Yes, we did.
I didn't put the timer on, but I'm being cautious looking up in the left-hand corner of our screen.
Yeah.
Describe our job. What does our job look like today? Like, Morgan, you have a very diverse job function.
Yeah, I am very fortunate that I kind of get the best of both worlds because I get to be involved in our research facilities and helping run all the research, as well as getting pulled in the barn to collect samples or weigh pigs. Flip side, I also get to help in the field with our sales guys and our account managers and that work with our customers. And I really enjoy both. Someone asked me this last week at the trade show. If you could only choose one, if you just had to make a decision right now, you had to choose research or tech support in the field. And I sat there for about 30 seconds because I didn't know the answer. Because I enjoy both so much, and someday I might have to make a decision. But for right now, it's working.
I hope not Hubbard and Alltech, because I truly believe that the best research trial is designed what our customers need. And the fact that you're in touch with your customers on a regular basis and you can influence the research that your team's doing that eventually is for that customer, I think that is, to me, been always the disconnect, but that's another topic for another day. So I really push the people that you report to, hopefully listening to this, to say, no, we're not going to make her choose because she can do it all.
I can do it all. But, sometimes for the better of the team, you just have to choose a direction sometimes. And everyone on our team is always involved in everything from the customer to the research to there's a core team of 4 of us that are all over the place. So I think we do a good job of doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the hardest things about tech service in that type of role as a nutritionist is the fact that I hardly ever got to see pigs. It was kind of depressing. I chose the career because I love animals, and I always say animals taught me how to love people, but there's a point that you need to get back in the barns so you're not disconnected from reality, right? And how to help your customers. And my friend posted a comment on there. We're not sales, we just facilitate buying decisions. And I think it's really the truth, right? Technical service, nutritionist is, yeah, we can make a great paper formula, but ultimately, if that doesn't provide the solution to our customers, it's a problem. And it's not just about a paper formula or meeting nutrient requirements. It's really, how do we create solutions for our customers and help facilitate the buying decision? And I would say as tech service, and I know this isn't our job, right? We're talking about more the foundation of what we do or behind the scenes. But sometimes my solution, I didn't have it in my portfolio in the different roles I have. But I've always networked and I've always kept up on different technologies, and I had a unique college experience to where I tested a lot of different things and knew a lot of different companies, and then I worked for a feed company. So I got all the pitches that I was able to facilitate a solution for my customer. And everyone would say, and bosses would be like, well, why did you recommend somebody else's product? Like, well, it's not competing against ours. It's a solution. But when it came to getting meetings, and everybody says they have a hard time getting meetings, I don't have a hard time getting meetings because the people want to meet with me because you know what? Casey's going to be open and honest. We realize she represents a certain company, but Casey's truly here to help us solve our problem.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, one thing I didn't necessarily think that I was going to be exposed to as much as I am today working in the commercial field is you kind of need to be a jack of all trades. You don't need to know you should know the details about your products and your programs that you're putting together, but you also need to know about the different diseases going on in the area, different treatments for those diseases, ventilation management strategies. You kind of need to know a little bit about everything that comes and goes into swine production, as well as the different subcategories of animal health and whatnot, because when you're sitting in a meeting with a customer, they're going to ask you, hey, what have you heard about this? What have you heard about that? What is your recommendation on this? Because those customers, when you sit down with them, you're a trusted advisor within the industry. They have their vet talking to them. They have probably other nutrition companies possibly coming in and talking to them. They want to know that what's being told is the same story. They want to make sure that the story being told is consistent. And if somebody is saying something that isn't following along with the norm of what they've heard, they want to know why. And they want to know more. And I think I know it's not just unique to the swine industry, but agriculture in general, is those producers are always learning and wanting to know more about how to raise their animals more efficiently, how to prevent as many diseases as they can, reduce their antibiotic use, just ways and tools for them to grow food for the consumer the best that they can.
Well, and here's the other thing, Morgan. Not just that, but we can use this week as an example. Joe Curran says we need to reduce our sow herd by 10% so we're all profitable again. I go talk to a pig swine producer. They're like, and I talk to my colleagues, they're like, who's going to reduce it? Who are we going to lose? And it's an independent producer I spoke to, 2,500 sows. They're like, we're just trying to hold on.
Yeah.
And then I hear all these feed additive companies, pushing sales and they want to do this and that. And you have producers, and it doesn't matter if you're big or small. That's the mentality today. We're just trying to hold on.
Yeah, and that's their livelihood.
To be smart, right? So you almost have to be like, well, it makes you focus differently, even as a nutritionist, when you hear that. And it doesn't matter if you're in the poultry industry. It's the same philosophy. I hear it. Don't spend money if it doesn't need to be, right? And everybody's just holding on, and it's trickling through our entire industry. And as a swine nutritionist, where you have a little more influence on the overall cost of that program from them, you can help create programs that aren't maybe what you want or would recommend, best cost.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it is a least cost idea. And I think this is important to understand the conversations we get into as swine nutritionists. It's not just about that paper formula or this enzyme release this much phosphorus.
Yep.
As you said, we are that valued partner. They do not get to hear the global perspective. That is why producers like to talk to me, because they know I talk to people around the world. They know I can bring them new ideas. And so I've always taken that time, regardless if they're 2,000 sows or 200,000 sows, that I'm their ears and I'm their listeners, bringing them knowledge, bringing them intel to help them make better decisions. And a lot of times it's not about my feed additive.
Yep. As we've looked at our product portfolio over the last year, when we, Hubbard has the full feed program and Alltech has the different Alltech ingredients. And as we've launched new products or researched different feed additives, we've been trying to put together calculators. KSU has really good calculators on their website for swine producers if they're looking for something specific. But we're looking at feed calculators just specific to our feed additives and saying, okay, if you have this feed additive, or if you have this feed program with and without the feed additive, this is what it's going to look like. And that producer can plug in the numbers that they need or sit down with us and go through them. It can show you if it's going to be a smart financial decision. Because, yes, it's great if it works, but if it's not going to be cost effective for that producer or save them money in a short period of time, then it's not going to be worth it for them.
I guess we're talking about more of the intellectual part of our job. And the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, if you're kind of listening from outside the industry or you're looking of how to communicate your job, and one of the things I have issues with some of the advocacy that we do as an industry is we paint all these pretty pictures of the barns, right? That are the clean pigs, and I'm the happy farmer, and I have my kids with me, and we're the American farmer. And my son still calls me a pig farmer, even though that is how he describes. When he was younger, I trained him when he was first learning to talk to explain what mom does, and I said, "Make pigs grow fast. Feed pigs to grow fast." And he'd go, you know. And it's kind of really hard to discuss what we do because it's not always glamorous. And
it's multifaceted.
Yeah, and this came up in conversation this week with others, is why are you not showing those 2-foot snowdrifts trying to get water and feed to your pigs? That stuff needs to be shown because everybody's complaining about how cold it is. And I was that person. I remember when sows got out when I was a kid and there was a foot and a half snow on the ground, and we had to go chase them through the pasture to get them back in. And little Casey legs were not doing very well. And then, just blizzards working through that when I was a manager trainee at New Fashion Pork and stuff. And there's a lot of unglamorous things about what we do. And I think I really took this one feedback from one of my coaches or whatever, or people that work in this coaching program I'm in, called me, "Oh, you're like a holistic doctor for animals." And I'm like, yeah, I actually am. And I didn't really think of it that way.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy because I believe in modern medicine, but I also go to the chiropractor once a month. I practice what I preach. We both do, except we practice through ourselves and practice what we preach in the industry.
Yeah, it's funny, and everybody's like, that knew me, like, "Oh, you're doing so much better." I said, "Yeah," and found out I had, kidney disease, and they have no clue why because I don't have all these other precursors, and the only thing they can pinpoint is that it's from my preeclampsia and my kidneys were damaged. And I went to the doctor and I was telling him all I was doing, and he's like, he didn't want to hear it. He just glazed over and he's like, "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. So just keep it up." I said, I'm the type of person that you tell me what's wrong and I fix the problem.
Right.
And I love the fact that we are getting to the point of breaking down those silos that nutrition and health are related.
Oh, yeah.
But I have another funny story about what I do. So I go out to visit a farm with my customers, the nutritionists, go into one of the contract sites, growers or part of the group. First thing we do is we look at the poop. And the farmer goes, "Oh, you can tell you're the nutritionist." I said, "Because I'm looking at the poop first."
Yeah. Well, pigs can't talk to us. So we have to look at, this is the nutrient analysis of what's going in. This is what's coming out, and this is how they're growing. Do we need to make adjustments? And I think I need to touch and feel and see, and that's how I learn. And for example, sometimes I get phone calls saying, "Oh, my pigs aren't growing fast enough. My pigs aren't doing this or that." And we might be feeding them, we might not be feeding them. I kind of have to put my magnifying glass on and my stocking cap like Sherlock Holmes and become a little investigator, because I have to know what right questions to ask to pinpoint and help me navigate and try to solve and help this producer figure out what's going on if they are having problems. You don't get the full story the first time.
Never.
And sometimes you're getting different information from the veterinarian, from the producer, you're just getting bits and pieces of the story. I'm very much a black and white person, and this has helped expand me into the gray zone because there is no clear-cut line why pigs are acting the way that they're acting, why they're not eating the feed, and this can go for any animal, why they're doing what they're doing. They can't talk to us, so we have to use what we see and feel, not what we feel, but what we see.
Oh, no, I trust, I smell. Sometimes you
feel.
Feed.
Yep.
I taste the feed. Something's off about it. You can pick up on tones by tasting it.
Yep. I've done that before.
And I was going to say, it's 15 years. I don't think Dr. Doug Cook would mind if I said this, but I interviewed with, I wondered if it was Aki or Provini at the time. I'm not sure what they were called. I was interviewing with my dream team of people I wanted to work with in nutrition because I grew up feeding Aki. And they kept giving me scenarios like that. What would you do? And I'm like, well, I get on the barn and talk and figure out this. And they always said, why didn't you ask what they were doing in the past? And I'm like, I guess I just had this presumptuous thought that maybe I would have that information going into it.
Oh, no, you never have that information.
But no, you never have that information. But here's the thing. Even if I did, and this is where I think my management comes into play. Like, I've actually been boots on the barn managing people and pigs just because the manager tells you or the owner tells you this is what they're doing.
It's not always.
And you're that Sherlock Holmes, you find out that is not what they are doing. And I'm like, past information's great, and I hate to go in the barn with the owners or like the head production guy. I like to go in by myself and I use my Spanish to my advantage. And I ask questions like Sherlock Holmes that others don't. So I think that's what's fun is like, I would prefer not to go in with the owner. I'm glad you can't be there at the visit. I'm going with the manager and really know what's going on, right?
And every situation is different. I might have 3 different situations that have the same exact answer that in conclusion on what I came down to, but the way that I got to that is totally different with every single customer or account that we work with.
Yeah. So I tell everybody I have a PhD in Google. Like, and somebody pointed out I'm a really good interviewer on the podcast, and I'm like, I think that was because of tech servers. I had to get good at asking questions. So, question for you, because this is on our outline, so we can not sound like we're just off the wall going down different paths. But is your current job what you pictured in school?
When I first started college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I think I mentioned this before. I originally went in thinking I was going to vet school, started getting involved in some research at UW, and then I interned with Iowa Select, and I worked on one of their sow farms, and I got the real practical experience of running a 5,000 head sow operation. And from that experience, and then a couple other opportunities that came about after college, I was able to work full-time at the UW research facility as well as getting my master's. And while I was going through that, I knew I loved the applied side of the swine industry, taking what we're doing in the research field and being able to communicate it to the producer. And so I knew I wanted to be that facilitator, but I really enjoyed like the feed them and weigh them, and where you could do change something in the feed, and within a couple of weeks you would know what you can get fast results with pigs because of how efficient they are in growing. And so Dr. Crenshaw is the only swine nutritionist professor specifically at Madison, and he oversaw the research facility. And so I just kind of got pieced together. And in the back of my mind, I also had always done stuff with dogs. Like, I have therapy dogs. I've been training dogs. I've always loved dogs, and dogs are monogastrics like pigs. And so I was like, okay, I'll try this pig thing, but if for some reason I fall into like a canine nutrition job after school, like, I'd be okay with that too. But I've just kind of, like I said, pigs chose me. I didn't choose pigs. I just kind of
canine nutritionists were pig nutritionists.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's just recently that we have companion animal nutrition. I mean, Iowa State's hiring a companion animal nutrition specialist.
Right. So if I wanted to working with pigs was the closest I could work with to get to dogs, I guess. There's a lot of different routes that came about, but I knew I wanted to be that facilitator between the research and the producer. Back to your question. Did I think that I was going to be where I am today? Originally, no. But as my career developed and went through school and the different opportunities presented themselves and I tried different things, when I got to grad school, I was like, okay, I could see myself doing this. I didn't get this job right out of college. I was a swine manager. I was a manager at a facility for a couple years, and then I was in sales for another couple years, and then I got here. So it's not a straight trajectory for those that are just graduating, coming up in the next couple months, and you haven't found a job. It can be disheartening a little bit for, you need a job to pay the bills, but it's not the job that you're in love with, but you kind of just need to grind it out for the meantime and build on the experiences and opportunities that present themselves within that current time frame. It's okay. You have time. You don't need to shut the door on future opportunities of where you think you may or may not want to be. Just kind of have that in the back of your mind all the time. And if a networking, that's if I could tell anyone that's probably one of the, going back to not saying no. During college, I never said no. If there was an opportunity for me to learn something or gain a skill set from an opportunity, I always said yes. So I think as you're learning and growing and seeing where you want to build your career, say yes to everything unless you absolutely confidently know that that's not what you want to do. And build your network.
And I think when you came out a little after me a while, and you said I was your first person in tech service, you kind of meant it was a working mom. But I had 3 people that I kind of looked at role models or career paths I wanted to go into. And I already told you I interviewed at Aki, and Betsy Newton. Betsy would be the one there. I knew her. Laura Greiner, I interviewed with Laura to run her research. And then, Dr. Gretchen Hill being a professor. And those were kind of like my 3 career paths. This is going post PhD. I had a lot of different decisions, but those were the 3 people I looked at, like 3 different career routes, right?
Yeah.
Commercial research, continuing what I was already doing for the university, but in a commercial setting. And then, being a feed nutritionist for a feed company, and then being a professor. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of professor jobs open. There, wasn't tons of jobs, but I also narrowed my focus of where we wanted to move back to, and it was Indiana, Ohio, within kind of around our families. And so I got the job at Comeback, and nothing what I anticipated of interacting with these people and doing research. And I wore a lot of hats: regulatory, quality assurance, manufacturing, logistics, getting feed, research, poultry research, multiple species problems. And I just thought people went out in the barns and had meetings about what they're going to feed the pigs. And it really wasn't. And it was good because I also found out in that transition what made me really good as a research manager is I had multiple projects. And I got in some other roles, and I had to have my fingers in a lot of things, and it caused problems for me. But, today, what I'm doing, everybody's like, have you thought about going to work for you guys? I'm like, yeah, I had a job offer. I had several people want me to come back. And I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it sounds like I got a lot going on, but that's the only way I can function.
Yeah,
I like all these
too.
little different projects.
I like having your fingers in lots of different things.
Yeah, because I learn from each of them. And every time I learn something new, I apply it to these other projects, these other things. And I just realized I love to learn. And that's what's really great about being a swine nutritionist. Because you cannot, an animal nutritionist, let's just take swine off the table.
Yep.
I'm not just a swine nutritionist anymore. I'm a monogastric nutritionist. I do all species, literally. So I have in my career, and I am currently working on all kinds of projects in the pet space, the pig space, the poultry space. But I learn from everything. And I think we get this mindset, and I see a lot of people that this is all I've done. This is all I've studied. This is all I learned. And I was glad I wasn't that grad student, right? I studied amino acids, and then I went to work for a Genomoto or somebody like that, or CJ. Or I studied phytase, and I just worked for enzymes. And I'm glad I didn't end up that person because I can't solve problems. You talked about solving problems and having the tools, like day-to-day roles and responsibilities is on our list. And I would say one of those is the fact that we need to make sure our company stays legal, we don't harm animals, and our producers stay legal and make money.
Yep.
That is the key, right? And I loved Paul saying this, and it took me a while to understand that, Paul Kalmbach. We try to create win-win situations. We need to make money as a company, but we also need to make sure our customers are making money so they can stay our customers.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at the industry today, agriculture today, and I've been in the budget cuts of different things, of cutting teams and assets. But if we all had that mindset that Paul Kalmbach did, and as far as I know, Kalmbach Fees is doing remarkably well and keeps growing. If we had that win-win approach, nobody would be suffering.
Yep. So I live in Wisconsin, which is the dairy state. There's not a lot of pigs in Wisconsin. And I would say I was one of the only, once I started looking for jobs, if you wanted to work with pigs, you had to live in Iowa, Minnesota. And that was a hurdle I had to navigate, and one of the challenges that came with trying to find a job in the swine industry, because I couldn't live just anywhere because of my husband's job. So I think I was a little afraid that I wasn't going to find what I wanted, or that I was going to be able to get to that point in my career of where I wanted to be because of where I could live. But it's interesting going to conferences now, and I recognize it a little bit more as I'll ask where people are from. And when you're in sales, you can pretty much live anywhere as long as you're willing to travel. Or if you're a consultant or marketing.
We're all salesmen.
We're all salesmen, yes. But I think I had to learn that I didn't have, yes, for some jobs you have to be where you need to be. But I think that was a feature and something that I didn't necessarily think about as I was going through my career, is that I could live where I want to live as long as I was willing to travel. And my husband and I have joked like, oh, what if we moved to Minnesota, or what if we moved to Iowa? I would still be traveling 3 to 4 hours to get to wherever I needed to be. And now I'm traveling maybe 5 or 6, but we have the benefit of living by family and et cetera and et cetera. So I think a couple hours is not that big of a difference when you look at all the other benefits of things.
It's so funny when you apply for these jobs. Oh, we'd love to have you in Iowa and Minnesota. And then, like, do you realize that Northwest Arkansas, I am in the middle of approximately 4 million sows, like within an 8-hour drive?
I didn't realize that.
Everybody forgets about the pigs and the sows in Oklahoma. And then, JBS has their sows south of me in Arkansas. And then I go north and I hit all the Missouri farms and Iowa. Like, I'm 6 hours from Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
So in the grand scheme of things, if I'm willing to drive, which is driving makes things a lot easier than flying.
Yep.
Because you still fly into Des Moines and I still have a 2 or 3 hour drive, depending on where I'm going.
Right.
So I think people also need to realize that our customers aren't in the traditional spaces where we once were. Like,
no,
it's not as farm gate as it used to have to be. Now you're in the dairy and the beef industry, depending on there's a lot of big dairy farms.
Yep.
But they're not really in the Midwest anymore. They're in the Southwest. They're in California.
Arizona. Yep.
Arizona and things like that. So you can make a week trip and hit 1 million cows.
A lot. Yeah.
Or even, I hear now, like, even on the dairy side is like the consultants. They control a lot of sows, 20 people. You just have to know 20 people, and you pretty much control most of the nutrition of dairy in the U.S. And it's the same problem, I think. I don't know if it's a problem or it's the same thing in the swine industry and the poultry industry. It's not like it used to be. And social media has changed even how we influence nutrition. But, everything that people see out there, there's so much that goes into it. We're going to have more episodes to talk about it. I know you have a long list of everything we do, but I think some of that's going to come out a little bit more.
As we break things down a little bit more in the coming weeks.
Yeah. In the coming weeks. But it's really hard to say what our day looks like. And it depends on the job you have. You can just be a formulator as a swine nutritionist. Yep. And all you do is make sure the diets work and they're priced right. And make sure they're meal ready to do that. And then you make labels that are legal and stuff. And, I still get calls like, can I feed this? And it's not swine or poultry customer, so I always have to go back. Well, I have to make sure it's legal for rabbits or dogs or something like that,
And
right?
falls within the nutritional range of, just like humans, animals have specific needs that they need to be met by the feed that they eat. And so we do have some guidelines of nutritional specs that we need to work within based on the age and phase and growing size of the
It's just
of the
like
animal.
corn. It's like how you feed corn to a pig, a chicken, a rabbit, a cow, a goat is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
They may all eat corn, but how that's utilized in the diet, the product form,
Yep.
can be totally different. And I think that's what's cool about being a nutritionist. It goes into not just the ingredients, but how do you deliver the feed, application of nutrition. And we can say that from our kids, right? A chicken nugget is chicken, breaded chicken, right? But for some reason, little kids love to have the dinosaur chicken nuggets over just the regular chicken nuggets. And we know as nutritionists, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But whatever it takes to get that food into the kid's mouth and stomach
is the challenge.
To get the pig, the dog, the cow to eat it and get the nutrition they need. So that's also nutrition that we don't think about and we take for granted. I think even us professionals, when we talk about that, is application of nutrition is just as hard as the concept of hitting the right nutrient requirements.
Yeah, and even just the feed form of, like, pigs grow different. Pigs specifically, I'm sure it's the same in other species, but animals grow differently based on the feed form that you're feeding it to them, whether it's pellet versus meal versus a crumbled mash versus a block.
I think that conversation is going to come up when we talk about phase feeding here in the coming weeks.
With our special guest.
Yeah, with our special guest. You also have another point, record keeping and data analysis. And I find this really interesting. Being a researcher, you've been a researcher, you've managed research farm as well. Data integrity, data accuracy, data entry, that is essential, right? And some people are good at it and some people aren't. But I think we're going more into this data analysis. We actually have tools to help make it easier and present that to our customers or people in our industry even more powerful than we did. And I would say, my education, data analytics wasn't really a big thing, but watching Humana at Hanover and her, she worked alongside Hanover as she got her PhD, and she's a business intelligence person, but her PhD is in swine nutrition. She found that she loved the data. And I think she's a great example of, I think it goes now beyond that we need to understand physiology, chemistry. We really need to understand data analytics and data visualization as nutritionists. Where 5 to 20 years ago, probably not. But today, ever so important.
It's not a option anymore. I think it's a requirement. No. We need to be able to formulate diets faster, least cost. If they don't have an ingredient, here's a sub-ingredient we can use that has the same nutrient requirements. It's coming, and it's coming very quickly.
And as I say, the one thing you didn't have on here, just like that, communicating science. There's a lot of smart people in our world, in our industry. But I have found everybody's like, I'm a swine nutritionist, but I'm communicating science every day. I change the format depending if I'm on the Real P3, Coffee in the Barn, talking to the, Smithfield nutritionist, talking to a consumer in a grocery store, struggling on which package of meat I want to pick up. But I'm doing all that, right?
Yep.
So that is another thing as a swine nutritionist that we have taken for granted. And it's not usually in our education package. It's all biochemistry, physiology, all that. And I love the fact that, my employee Mitch, he's taken a lot of different courses. He's not taken the traditional path in courses that a lot of PhD students take in his program because he's worked in the industry and he knows the skills he needs to have. And that's just the number one thing listening. If you're, looking at a degree as a nutritionist, tech service, getting a master's, PhD, don't be afraid to get a sub degree or sub specialty or certificate in data analytics, in writing, in communication, because it's going to be of value.
Going back to the college conversation, is at the time that I went to get my master's, or towards the end of my master's, I tossed around the idea of going to get my PhD. So I don't have a PhD. A lot of swine nutritionists or nutritionists in the field have their PhD. I would say majority. I would say
majority do, and
majority do,
because a lot of companies feel that just heightens their reputation. But I'm going to tell you right now, and there's a lot more than just you. You work for one of the best swine nutritionists I know, and only has a master's.
Yes, and that, and I don't, and that door didn't open, or I don't say the door didn't open. I didn't. In college, everyone's like, or I don't say everyone's like, but during college, you only see the PhD level individuals going out and doing the big things. And I just want to say, if you're tossing up whether you get your master's or your PhD, start with your master's. If you're comfortable and you think you can do what you want to do with a master's, go do that with a master's. That's where I was at. I don't think, looking back now, I don't think I'd be any further along in my career if I had a PhD versus a master's. Maybe I would have gotten here faster, like gotten to the point where I am faster if I had a PhD, because for some of the jobs that I applied for.
It's all about ROI, Morgan. And here's the thing, as I tell everybody, the best thing I ever did for my career was the fact that I went to work for New Fashion Pork and did not go to school all the way through.
Yeah, you can always go back and get your PhD. Yep.
Yeah, more internships and things. But the internships that we do in the swine industry, we spend a week in farrowing, we spend a week in breeding, we do this. It's still just painting the pretty picture of what it's really like.
Right.
You truly don't understand the problems or how to apply solutions until you work it every day. I just say that break, because you know what? You work for a company now. If you want your PhD, you have a research program that you help manage, that you could do all your research there. You would just have to figure out how to take your courses, and you could get a PhD, and they would pay for it. But if it's not a priority to you or a goal,
that's
don't
okay.
worry about it. Yeah.
And I just wanted to I just wanted to make that point, because I think that's all I saw when I was at trade shows, when I was at conferences. That's all I saw was those with a PhD, and you can be that person with a master's. Is all I'm trying to.
Do you know why I got a PhD?
Because you got paid to get a PhD?
Well, at the time of the master's degree, I was either overqualified or underqualified for any job on the market.
And I ran into that problem. The first job I got out of college, I was way overqualified for, but I took it because I was going to gain experience that I wouldn't necessarily have gotten. And
it was in the location you needed it to be.
And it was in the location I needed it to be. Yep.
My PhD trial, I had to pivot on my master's degree because Zimpro and Maxwell took forever to get the trial protocol and the contract done so we can run it. And the whole purpose I wanted to go back to grad school was on sow lameness, because that was a problem I faced as a manager. And I'm like, we're doing C-sections, and that's, at the time, that was death to the sow, and hopefully the piglets lived. And I came to the conclusion as a manager saying, is this my only solution? Right?
Yep.
That is what drove me to want to go back to grad school, seeing all these problems. And I'm like, I don't have the knowledge to be able to fix these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And, I stuck it out. I started my PhD project while I was finishing my master's. The way my job went, I had to do all the work anyways. I would have quit 3 or 4 times on the PhD, but my husband kept me going.
It's hard.
It's hard. And I finished it. I'm proud that I did. Do I have the publications like other PhDs? No. That wasn't a thing that Maxwell wanted. Then I got in the job world, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that Maxwell didn't want it. He just, if you didn't do it, he didn't care.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think we went on our tangents long enough. And
yeah, I was going to say we're
way over. But this is kind of good insight. So I hope your professionals listening of how do you communicate what you do. Don't take offense to things.
If you want to learn more, reach out to Casey and I. We'll be more than happy to talk to you and help you navigate through career options or choices or, what
please,
a day in the life.
yeah. And the biggest takeaway advice, and you're going to give an action item, but I would say keep your doors open.
Yeah.
Don't be so tunnel visioned. And if you're 20 years into your career and listening to this, like I am, keep the doors open and don't be tunnel visioned about the possibilities.
Because they're endless.
Endless, yeah. But you had a good action.
Yeah, so a lot. Casey and I experience this, I would say, at least once a week, probably on the day-to-day in our careers and mom life. But how do you prepare for the unexpected? That is your action item for the week, is just thinking about that and different things that you do to help prepare yourself. For example, before I travel, I always make sure that the kids are lined up for whatever they need to line up. The fridge is full. The meals are at least planned out. I try to prepare for as many things at home that I can that I would normally do if I was there, so my husband doesn't have to think about it while he's home with 2 kids.
How do I prepare for the unexpected? I read a lot. I get outside advice. I go beyond my industry to find information and knowledge on different things. And it's helped me professionally, personally prepare for the unexpected. So constantly learning. That's how I prepare for the unexpected.
I do that same thing too in multiple facets. But, well, I think that wraps it up for this week. Thanks for listening, Casey. I hope you have a great week.
Yeah, you too, Morgan.
And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.